Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second meeting of the year. Today we're going to be hearing from Campbell University representatives.
Domes for his screen.
So without further ado, you guys can go ahead and take over.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I was 100% just stuffing my face with food, so bear with me while I get the kinks worked out. Okay, I just want to thank everyone for joining us for this this virtual visit. I kind of love getting our NC State students in for this because y'all are so close. Y'all are kind of usually have a lot of same values as Campbell. You'll hear from some of your alumni a bit later into this presentation as well. I like to call y'all grapefruits, red and orange. So let me go ahead and pull up a presentation we've got for you. So we've got about 16 slides to share with you, and we'll have some Q&A. So that's something you can expect from this as well. So you're going to hear from me, you're going to hear from the side of things, you're going to hear from some students, and you're going to get a chance to answer some questions as well. First, some introductions. My name is Wes Gaylor. I am the admissions counselor here. Some of you actually might remember me from last year when I was in a slightly different role, when I was working specifically with the PA program. And now I'm kind of transitioned into a different role where my goal is solely to help students get their applications ready and apply for all sorts of different programs, PA program included. So one thing that I posted up at the very top of the chat, if you scroll up, I posted two things. I posted a mailing list, a link to sign up to get on the mailing list. So if you want to get into some of our events, we do monthly workshops on personal statements, interview skills, competitive applicant workshops. In fact, I've seen Caitlin at a couple of those, and I think that she found those helpful. So feel free to get on that mailing list and then get into some workshops that can be helpful. Also posted a video to a tour of our facility. I know that's one of the things that we're missing here is normally we have you come into the building and actually tour it. And then obviously this year with COVID, we can't do that. So we've got a virtual tour posted. If any of you want to email me for any admissions questions or any counseling requests, so I can take a look at your admissions packet and see kind of what's going on, give you some feedback on that, I've got my contact info there. Next, I'm going to turn it over to our admissions coordinator, Brittany Kaufman.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me okay? Good. Awesome. So as Wes said, my name is Brittany Kaufman. I'm the admissions coordinator for the PA program. I've been with Campbell now since September of last year. In my previous role, I was a biology advisor. So I kind of serve in both those capacities still as well a little bit. So I'm going to be talking about the admissions process during this presentation in terms of the application, making sure you have your correct prereqs, how to be a competitive applicant, what makes some stand out versus the others. And my information is listed there on the screen. If you have any questions specifically about what courses are going to transfer, I know state has, a couple of micro classes, a couple different chemistry or biochem classes. So if you have any questions regarding that, you can always email me. I am very familiar with NCSU's system, so I would know specifically what classes would count and what would not. Yeah, if you have any questions, my email's there, my phone number is there as well.
Okay, I swear by 2023, I will get that right. Next, we will hear from a number of student ambassadors. So first, I'm going to turn it over to our very hardworking president, Danielle.
All right, can you guys hear me? Awesome. Had to check. So I am Danielle Dufresne. I am the president of the Student Ambassadors. So part of my role is kind of facilitating ambassadors, so students that are in the program with me, to talk at things like this, talk to incoming students, things like that, just because we really love the program and we really love the experience that we've kind of had. And so we really just kind of want to share that. And we were y'all like really close to like yesterday ago, like it feels like. So we know what it's like to be applying. We remember what it's like to be interviewing. I cannot believe we're already halfway through didactic year, but I will turn it over. I'll just have the ambassadors introduce themselves. And what I like to do is please tell me your favorite thing about the program. Try not to repeat, even though it's hard because some are really good. But you guys can go in whatever order. Just say your name and maybe where you went to school and your favorite thing.
I'll go first so that my brain doesn't blank when everyone takes all of the ideas. My name's Gracie Cates. I am a PA student here. I went to Virginia Tech, graduated in December 2016. So I did take a few years off between college and school. And favorite thing about Campbell, the faculty, they're like our family. They're just the sweetest, most loving humans I know. So don't know where I'd be without them.
I can go,
I'll go.
Danielle.
Go ahead.
My name is Valerie Cloud, and I got my Bachelor of Health Science with Nova Southeastern University out of Florida. And my favorite thing about the program is the study groups. You're definitely going to want to take advantage of the study group.
Can y'all hear me? Okay. My name's Maddie. I went to UNC Chapel Hill undergrad. Don't hate me. Graduated in 2017. And my favorite thing has got to be just like how kind and supportive all of my classmates are, like through school, but also just through like life stuff that comes your way, because life still carries on during the program. So happy to talk with you guys today.
Hey guys, my name is Chris. I went to NC State for undergrad, go Pack. And my favorite thing about the program is just how much we all share our resources and really kind of help pull each other along when we're like faltering in one subject area. You know, we really help kind of pull each other along and just really help kind of support one another. And that's my favorite part about the program.
Hey, my name's Madeline.
Oh, go ahead, keep going.
My name's Madeline. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, graduated in 2019, studied biology. I would say my favorite thing is, again, the faculty, but to say that they're doing literally everything they can to make this the best experience, even amongst everything that's going on. So they're really giving us the best education that we can get at the moment.
Danielle, did you want to say something before we continue? Oh, okay. Hey guys, my name is Julie. I went to Carolina, and I think you kind of get the gist from what other people have said, but my favorite thing about Campbell is just like the supportive nature of the class and the faculty. I think one big thing for me, like NC State, UNC was obviously like a really big school, so there was a ton of competition, and you were in those like 400-person chem classes or bio classes, and everyone talked about grades, and it was just competitive, and it was easy to get down on yourself. But that's not something we do at Campbell at all. Everyone's super supportive. No one talks about grades. It's just about getting everyone through to be the best PA. So I think that's really cool.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay? My name is Catherine, and I went to Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh. I graduated in 2018, and my favorite thing about the program would be the amount of guest lecturers we have and just lecturers from other programs in the Campbell family. So that's been a really good part about it.
Hello, I'm so happy to be back. Hey everybody, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jada. I used to be the president of the pre-PA club at State. So this is just like filling my whole heart and seeing so many of your familiar faces. Could actually cry. So I just graduated from NC State 2020 in the pandemic. It was a good time. And now I'm here. Hi, oh my gosh. And my favorite part about Campbell, a lot of people have said it, but my study group is in here right now. Literally wouldn't survive without them. And just the faculty, the people, the lack of competition, the shared resources, I mean, everything. And I'm just so excited to chat with you.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to take back over. So first, I think I'm going to take back over. First, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the program, about the history of the program. Well, first, the history of the school. So the school itself, Campbell, founded way back in the 1800s, and with the sole purpose to train students in the community where there was kind of a really big need for higher education to go back out and give to their community. So it was really all about the students being served and then the students go out and serving. We haven't really gotten away from that in the 200 or 120 plus years of the school's existence. And that's why the PA program was founded. We were kind of looking at how can we reach the most people in terms of service, in terms of providing for our communities, in terms of helping others. And we had just kind of started a medical school, and we decided PA is the most logical next step as well. So the program was approved in 2008, and that's where they started. So we've been accredited from the time that we graduated our first class, and we're going to continue that accreditation on. This is actually an accreditation year, but I do believe we've gone ahead and got approval for the next 10 years. We started off with kind of a small class, 34 students, and then the way that we were teaching, the way that we were running the program really resonated with a lot of people, and we kind of grew and grew and grew, and then we got to 54. We've settled on 54 because we feel like it's the perfect amount to have kind of that small group feel, that you can find your clique, you can find your crew, but it's not so big that it's inaccessible, and it's not so big that faculty is overwhelmed and has too many students to deal with. So that's kind of where we're at now. So every year, that's the question I get every year: how many seats do you have? We ultimately have 54 seats. We do have a Master Physician Assistant practice. That is a slightly different degree. We want to emphasize the practice and the doing side of that. We're also a very hands-on learning program. We're a very kind of active learning program. Our clinical year is very important to your education, very important to us. So it really is all about that practice. So a lot of times you'll see like a different combination of alphabet letters to describe this degree, but that's the one that we settled on. It is also a 24-month program. You're doing 2 years. It's fast. It's intimidating. So that is something, but we get you out sooner. We get you prepared for the world sooner and get you making some money. All right, so next I'm going to turn things over to Jada. She is going to tell you kind of her story of going from NC State pre-PA to Campbell PA. Oh, nope, I think I smushed my slides around. There we go.
Okay, so this picture, I found it on my computer and I had to include it because that was actually my orientation at State, which just feels like forever ago. But just like they were saying, it's not too long ago that we were all sitting in your shoes. And so I just can't say enough about State and Campbell. And so I'm so excited to chat with you guys. So yes, my pack, I missed you. So the first thing I want to talk about is HPrep. This is something that Campbell puts on, and I did it junior year when I was applying for school. So because I didn't take a gap year, I ended up applying in April of my junior year, and then H prep was in May. So I highly recommend it. I'm sure Wes can get you guys a link, or Caitlin can get you a link, or I can get you the link. But if you just Google H prep, it'll come up. So I highly recommend doing that. That's something that I did that I think is great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some things specifically at NC State that you guys can do. And then I just put a list of the things that I did just in case you had any questions about it. I'm not going to read that part to you, but if something specific is on there that you're interested in, let me know. So what should you do at State? What you're doing right now, this pre-PA club is awesome. This is something that I was a part of since I was a freshman, and then I got to be the president of it, which was such a cool experience. Listen to all of your speakers, hear what the PAs have to say, the practicing PAs, schools. It's such a great resource, and it's such a great way to get your connections in. So definitely this is huge and something you can do while you're at State. Because we are in Raleigh, or you guys are in Raleigh, I wish I was still there, you can do the Duke Regional Ambassador Program. This is something that you also apply for. I'm not sure how COVID has affected it, but it's definitely something to look into if you are a freshman or a sophomore, even a junior for that matter. Or taking a gap year, look into the Duke Regional Ambassador Program. It's a combination of shadowing and volunteering in the emergency department, and it's fantastic. I was able to make a lot of connections there and meet one physician that led me to another, that led me to their PA, that led me all across the hospital. So even though they only give you a certain range, I guess, that you can shadow in, if you make the connections, you can shadow even more. So that's a great program. It's also an application process, but I highly recommend it. You can see what I did at State. I'm not going to read that, but also make sure you're doing something that's not PA related. It's so easy to get caught into this world of I'm just a pre-PA student, but you're not. And so make sure you do something that's like fun for you and that you enjoy doing, that's not necessarily related to school. I loved NC State with my whole heart. So I gave tours at State and I loved every minute of it. And that was not related to PA school. That was just something that made me happy. So I highly encourage all of you to do something like that. And then other things is, how does Campbell compare to NC State? What's the transition like compared to being a State student? What is it like? So for preface, I was a human biology major, and I minored in nutrition and psychology. And I was also a CNA for my hours. That's how I got all of my hours for school. And I asked, I don't remember who I asked. It was somebody else from NC State that was alum. I was like, hey, tell me, like, how hard is PA school? Like, come on, like, how hard is it really? And they were like, it's the equivalent of taking 4 Dr. Sandberg classes. So for those of you who are here and are either cringing because you hated Dr. Sandberg, or you're like, oh my gosh, I love this woman, I had the love relationship with her. I know it's very much love-hate in that realm, but that rigor and that level of class, I think, is kind of what compares to PA school. With that being said, if you were on the good side of Dr. Sandberg, the support that you get from her is equivalent, if not more, at Campbell. So you have so much support. All of your faculty is there for you. You'll get assigned an advisor when you come, and my advisor is my bestie. I love her. She's the best. And so even though it is probably the equivalent of taking 4 Dr. Sandberg classes at once, you have the support of all of your faculty and all of your classmates. I know somebody was mentioning the shared resources. I think it was Chris. That is huge. I mean, literally, like, none of us could do this without our classmates. And so somebody will make a Quizlet, somebody else makes a chart, somebody else makes a practice test. And that is like the most helpful thing I think about Campbell. So another thing that I heard that I think was pretty accurate is it feels like finals week almost every week. There are times where it's not finals week, and I'll say that's at the beginning of a unit, and there is time for you to take off on the weekends. I don't want you to hear that it's impossible, because it's definitely not. But the rigor of you're going to be studying from, well, you're in class from 9 to 5, and so you're probably going to study after that. It does feel a little bit like finals week. One thing that I think definitely surprised me was I thought that anatomy at State was so much harder than anatomy in PA school. With that being said, we went into a lot more depth when we were at state because we had 2 semesters to cover it. Whereas when you're here, you have 9 weeks to cover it. So you don't go as much in depth, but you still cover a ton of material. So I would say that it's faster paced. And then from that respect, it was harder because there's just so much coming at you so fast, but there was definitely a lot more details that you knew at state. That you had to know at state. So that's something I would have liked to know, because I know that's like the biggest thing is like this transition. And so that, I guess, is something that would be helpful. So like I was saying, it is so challenging, but it is so doable. That's something I want everybody to hear. That's something that I want everybody to hear is that, you know, PA school is going to be hard. And there's no way around that, but know that you have every resource available to you, and everybody here wants you to succeed. Your classmates want you to succeed. Your professors want you to succeed. Even the security guards at the front desk, when you walk in, smile at you, they want you to succeed. And so the atmosphere of support at Campbell is unparalleled. And then the other thing that I'll talk about is that there's like, you have one pocket. Campbell, and Wes emailed me and he was like, what does that mean, dude? And so when you are in undergrad, right, you have like all these different pockets of your life. You have your social pocket, you have your academic pocket, you have your club pocket, and you have all these different pieces of your life, and you kind of just juggle between all of them. But when you're in PA school, everybody's in one pocket. Your social pocket, your school pocket, your club pocket, you're all right here. So I think that's definitely a big change, is seeing that you are going to be surrounded by the same people. And, you know, that's why they say, oh, you know, when you go to PA school, they become your family. Well, they do, because that's all you have. Like you have your classmates. And if you're lucky enough to live at home, you have your family at home. But for me, I mean, my parents are in Charlotte, so my classmates are my family. And I don't say that lightly. And I know that that's such a cliche. And you're like, whatever, Jada. But I mean, I really, truly mean that. And that the people that are here, I couldn't do this without them. So that's kind of the transition that I'll talk about. And then the last thing I want everybody to hear is that as hard as PA school is and as intimidating as all of these numbers can be, I wholeheartedly believe that you will end up in the program that you're supposed to be in when you're supposed to be there. And I think something that's super special about Campbell is they look at you as a person and not a number. I really believe that you can teach anybody the science of medicine. You can teach anybody how to read a textbook, I mean, with a little time and effort, but you can't teach everybody how to be a compassionate, kind, and caring provider. And I think that speaks more volumes at Campbell than your grades do, and then the numbers on your piece of paper. So focus on your personal statement, focus on who you are and what kind of provider you want to be, and that will shine louder than the numbers. Don't get me wrong, Wes, don't yell at me, because I know the numbers are important. I know you have to meet your averages, but as long as you're getting there, know that who you are as a person and a provider really does matter. And that is all I have to say. I love you and I'm so happy to be back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jada. Thank you so much. All right, so I want to speak about our PANS passage rate real quick. So real quick, these numbers are first-time passage rates. So since 2014 on down, we've actually passed. Everyone is taking the PANS. So we had a couple in that first class not pass it. I think 2 didn't pass it even after their second time. And then from then on, we passed everyone who took the PANS, most of which, aside from occasionally one person every time, was getting on that first try. We did have that 3-year streak there in the middle that we're very proud of, and then they changed the test on us. So now we're back to having one person having to take it twice. So you can see kind of our numbers there. That's very important. Obviously, you don't want to go through 2 years of PA school and then not be able to practice as a PA. And that's something that we're doing very well, is that those who are coming through are getting to go on and pass PANS and practice as PAs. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes Campbell unique, some of our kind of different things that we've got going on around campus. And I'm especially going to highlight the ones in orange. I'll let you kind of read through the rest, because there's a lot of things on this slide. One, dual programs. So we haven't gotten a chance to talk about that yet. Danielle is actually one of our dual public health students. So if you have any questions about that particular program, she's a great resource. But basically, we do have dual programs offered in both public health and clinical research, so that you're just kind of adding to your practice as a holistic practitioner. In the case of public health, that program is very geared towards rural and underserved communities and kind of how to operate in those areas. I know that a lot of students in NC are from small towns all over the country, really. And so think about like kind of, you know, is that somewhere you're from? Is that somewhere maybe you want to go back? Is that a type of community that you want to serve? The public health program is going to teach you how to do that. Our clinical research program is all online. It is dedicated to kind of teaching you how to develop and trial new therapies for treatments. And then because it is the dual program, put those into practice as well. It really helps you understand how you're treating a patient, where that treatment is coming from. That's the idea with the MSCR program. Both programs add an extra year to your school. You'll do the master's first, and then the PA program. And the clinical year, your electives will be, you'll have 2 electives that are kind of based into your master's program. Danielle, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I, along with quite a few actually other students in our class, went through the public health program, and it's just one of those things that I was actually seeking it out, and there aren't many. I think there's like maybe 5 or 6, like, so I was seeking that out, and that was just really something that I wanted, because it teaches you kind of like the why. So like, you have this patient come in with a heart attack, like in PA school, we're learning how to treat that. Like, we're learning the meds, we're learning how to read the EKG. But in public health school, we got to kind of think about, you know, did this person have access to sidewalks to have physical activity? Did, you know, how can we change it from that perspective so they don't end up at the MI, you know, at the PA MI perspective. So I love it. I had great experiences. My capstone, I had a wonderful time on my capstone after it was done. I was very proud of it. It was crazy when it happened, but you know, but it was just, it's one of those things that I think that if you have an interest in it, even if you don't know really how it'll fit in, use it, like do it. Because like, even if you don't necessarily work in public health, like you're going to use all of that with every patient interaction.
Perfect, thank you. Those public health students explain it so much better than I do. Okay, next I'm going to skip down to the interprofessional education, our IPE department. Our IPE department is, when I say like respected on a nationwide level, I mean that we have people coming to us to learn how that we're doing our IPE, our interprofessional education. That means that our PA students, our PPT students, medical students, pharmacists, they're all working together. They're all learning how to work with one another. They're learning each other's lanes and silos and when to rely on one another as part of a team. And the one thing that I always tell healthcare providers is the team that you're on, where you're working with the pharmacist, PT, everyone else, that team is not linked by location or whatever hospital or entity you're working at. That team is linked by the patient. You know, that's the cross section, that's the intersection, that's who you're working for. I've worked in a hospital before as a chaplain. I have seen the need for this. I've seen, truth be told, someone prescribe a medication and not consult a pharmacist, and then that patient have an allergic reaction, and it could have been disastrous had it not been caught in time. So, you know, this is a very necessary task to learn how to work within each other's lanes. To do that, to accomplish that, I mean, we do a lot of activities with our other programs, starting from, you know, just kind of get to know each other's stuff, get to know how we help one another stuff, to doing full-blown sim labs with students from other programs to see how they're working on the patient, how they're working together. Early clinical experience. So we do have a community care clinic. We do have a mobile care clinic as well. Both of those are very important for us being a service institution, but you being a student, getting out and then seeing patients early. So everything that we kind of do that first year, we want to get you ready to see patients. We want to get you ready for clinicals. And that second year, you've got clinicals down pat. Like you've got seeing patients down pat. I hear it every year. Oh, I know so much more than I thought I did. And then so that second year, really, while you're doing your clinicals, you're focused on coming back in, prepping for the pants. So the two things that we do are getting you involved with the community care clinic and then the mobile care clinic as well. That will go around the area and treat farm workers, migrant workers who are coming to North Carolina from all over. And there's little supervision as far as like professors that are practicing PAs looking over you. It's actually mostly you treating patients, and it's very necessary because these migrant workers, you might be the only healthcare provider that they see the entire time they're here in North Carolina. So that's a very good project that we have that I always steer students towards. Next, we have the ultrasound education interest group. We have learned that just in the healthcare as a whole, the ultrasound can be used for so much more than just, we tend to use it for women's health and pregnancy, but we can use it for a lot more, to monitoring heart palpitations, to lung movement, muscles, you name it. So that's what this group is about, just kind of exploring the different ways that we continue to use ultrasound. And we have a virtual reality lab as well. So you go and you put on the VR headset. You might be working with like an actual ultrasound, or you might just be using the VR headset to like interact with a patient and then doing the ultrasound on the actual lab equipment. And then you again, like hopefully you've read this list by now, you see that we do a lot of stuff as far as service projects, mission trip opportunities. We do have state-of-the-art facilities. Go check out that tour video. And then I'm actually going to, at this point, turn it over to Chris. And he is going to tell you a little bit about his story transitioning from NC State to Campbell. So Chris, take it away.
Hey everyone, can you guys all hear me okay? I'm having some internet issues, so I just want to make sure before I start that you guys can hear what I'm saying. Wes, give me a thumbs up. I'll take that as a good sign. All right, so my name is Chris. I matriculated into NC State in 2011. So I was a freshman. My initial plans were to work with children with intellectual disabilities. So I began with a psychology major and a minor in biology. While I was in NC State, I did like psychology research. We did research with the vet school, doing things with like checklists and surgeries and stuff like that, kind of like medically geared. And I also worked at Victory Junction one summer, which is in Randolph, North Carolina. It's for children with chronic medical conditions. I also worked at Arc of the Triangle. So I was like an in-home rehabilitation technician for one little boy with Cornelia de Lange syndrome and another little boy with cerebral palsy. I did a lot of volunteer work with Miracle League of the Triangle and also Special Olympics at NC State. And that was when I was still thinking I was going to do work with children with intellectual disabilities. And the good thing about a lot of the things that I did when I was, still kind of working towards that goal was a lot of them transitioned really well into prerequisite, or not prerequisite, but clinical experience for PA school. And so about 2014 and 2015, I realized that I wanted to do something a little bit more hands-on. I wanted to, be able to see the direct, immediate result of something or an action that I took, like in emergency medicine. That was, what I'm really interested in. And so I began taking my prerequisites at NC State, just like basic biology, stuff like that. I participated in the dance marathon. And I also did, I think Jade even mentioned it, a alternative spring break. I went to Argentina and I worked in a like a public hospital that they have socialized healthcare over there. And I kind of saw that aspect of it, which was very interesting. And then I also began shadowing a ton of PAs. Anyone I could, anyone that would let me come in and shadow them for a day, I would pretty much just go and do it and just start picking their brain about things I needed to do, what the whole process looks like, because as you guys know, it is a lot to do. It is a lot of boxes to check. It's a big task to take on. And so I kind of had started to figure out where I stood and what I needed to do. So graduated from NC State in 2016. That summer, I got my EMT basic license. So I did it at the National Center for Outdoor and Adventure Education. It's a 3-week course. It's accelerated. If you don't want to do, like, this is just like a shameless plug for EMS, but if you want to be an EMT and you don't want to take the, 6-month course at a community college, this is an option. And it was awesome for me. And then I moved back to Greensboro, which is where I'm from. And I did a post-bac from 2016 to 2018 at UNC Greensboro. While I was there, and also while I was at NC State, I was a tutor. And one of the things when I was doing interviews with all these schools they really liked was that I was a tutor, because I was going back through these science courses I was taking, these prereqs, anatomy and physiology, biochem, microbiology, and I was reviewing all this material, which really helps when you're in PA school and, you have 3 or 4 lectures and you're needing to kind of draw on that past experience in those prerequisite classes that are so important. I got a little bit more leadership experience while I was at UNCG, and also a little bit more volunteer experience. And I was also working part-time EMS. And then in 2018, when I was done at UNCG, I started full-time EMS, started working on my personal statement, started putting my application together, taking the GRE, all that stuff, getting my recommendations. And then I applied in 2019 in September. I got interviewed. I got a call from Wes. And then in 2020, I think it was March, Wes called me and told me I was in, and that was probably one of the best days of my life. So, I think there's a real contrast here between me and Jada's story. Jada knew what she wanted to do as soon as she got to NC State. And like, that is awesome. And you guys obviously all know what you want to do also, because you're in this pre-PA club. I didn't. I had a change of, I guess, I had a change of career choice about halfway through. And one thing that NC State was very supportive in that nature of is they were awesome about getting me all my transcripts. I had professors that would write me recommendations even like 3 years after I graduated. They were all very easy to get in touch with. NC State let me keep access to my emails so that I could keep getting my emails. Like, they made it very simple for me. That's one thing I love at NC State. And that's one reason why I love it so much. So, my path to PA school wasn't your traditional one, I guess, but it was definitely a path that I think helped me out in the long run. So if you have any more like specific questions, I know that that's very, specific to my story, but if you have any specific questions, we are more than happy to answer anything you have. So hopefully that gave you just a picture of what it looks like from both perspectives, Jada and someone coming in, 4 years after they graduate from undergrad.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. I hope it's helpful for y'all to kind of hear stories from students who are in your shoes and then how they got to the next step. That's always kind of the goal here. And I certainly always love hearing from y'all. My slides got a little mixed around, but that's okay, because next we're going to talk about just kind of the family atmosphere at Campbell and how, what the Campbell family means. For that, I am going to turn it over to Maddie K, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, y'all. I'm on my phone. I hope you can see me. I can't really see myself right now. I'm currently in the car, so I apologize. But Campbell, it's been touched on a lot already, but Campbell's been so great about, like, I'm sure, like, I've heard NC State was a lot like UNC undergrad. There's a lot of competition. Sometimes maybe like you gotta kind of find the right people to study with, and even then sometimes it feels like a competition still. Well, it doesn't feel like that at Campbell. We're all like super supportive of each other. Like Jada and Juliana and some people were saying, like, some people are great at making charts and they'll put it in a shared drive for us. People are good at making Quizlets, and those are awesome study tools. So you kind of like find classmates that have different strengths and things that they're good at. We all just kind of put all our strengths together in one, and it just like helps us all as a community. And I'd say the other thing that's really great is that we have people from so many different diverse backgrounds. Like you just heard from Jada and Chris, like both really like interesting different backgrounds, and they bring their strengths and their like specific knowledge and like skill base to the program. So I definitely recommend like looking out like, hey, this guy was a medic and he's like gonna help you nail down your intubation skills, and like that's super helpful. Or like, oh, this person was a rad tech prior to coming in, and they're gonna be the ones to go to if you have questions about like reading an x-ray and stuff like that. So it's just been a really great experience that you don't have to feel like, oh, you're competing against each other, like people are being secretive about certain things. And like grades, of course, like it's a good gauge for yourself, but it's not something that we like talk about with each other necessarily, unless you like have a really close friend you want to talk to about it with. I guess that's fine, but I think generally it's just been kind of encouraged to just say like, hey, we're gonna like carry each other through this, and as long as we can get through this and be like the best PAs we can at the end of the day, it's just been like a really good experience overall. So definitely a little bit competitive to like get here, but once you're here, the competition's over, and just definitely like lean into each other and pick up on each other's strengths, and it'll benefit everybody.
All right, thank you, Maddie. I had a coworker, Rod, who would always say that we're here to lift each other up, and I think that that's a great testament to that. So next, we are going to move on, and I believe now is time to hear about admissions requirements. So I'm going to turn it over to Brittany.
Awesome. Thank you, Wes. All right, so I'm going to go over a little bit of the application process and what our requirements are. And I just want to echo what Jada was saying, that while yes, we do have, specific requirements in terms of GPA and specific hours, we do look at the applicant as a whole. We do take into effect, maybe where you started from and where you ended up, what kind of volunteering, what kind of shadowing experiences you have, how did you go above and beyond what was required. So we definitely take note of the whole applicant. We don't just focus on, well, how good were your grades? How good were your test scores? So just kind of wanted to echo that right off the bat. But in terms of the admissions process, there's essentially one application. There's one application and it's through CASPA. So CASPA usually opens up around the end of April. I think last year it was April 30th is when they opened up the application strictly for PA students. But we do also have a second application, so to speak. It's called our supplemental application. If you go to our PA website under the admissions requirements, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the caspa.org link. And then right below that, you'll see the link for the supplemental application. It is very important that you submit both of those applications. We do not look at your application via CASPA until we see that supplement application in there. So just make sure that you do both of those. We do require a bachelor's degree from an accredited U.S. college. So NC State is one of those colleges, so we do accept that degree. We do have our GPA requirements. The next two, the GPA and the healthcare, are really our kind of two hard and fast requirements that we have. Everything else is more of a recommendation, but we have two ways that we look at your GPA. First, we'll look at either your overall, as long as your overall GPA from your entire undergrad is a 3.2 or higher, or we'll look at the last 60 credit hours. So this could be if you've, completed your bachelor's degree, your GPA wasn't really where you were looking for it to be. You go on to do some post-bac work, or maybe you complete a master's degree. Whatever that last 60 credit hours is what we look at. So essentially we could lump in the post-bac hours. We would lump in the master's hours if you have those. So definitely the 3.2 minimum. So that absolutely hard requirement. We do have a prereq GPA. It's just a recommendation, typically about a 3.4 or higher. And then we have our science GPA recommendation, which is usually about a 3.0 or higher. Those two are not hard and fast. So if you're kind of hovering around that bubble there, we do take that into consideration as well. But the overall, or the 60, is the one that we do not budge on. So the 3.2 for there. The next requirement, the healthcare experience requirements, absolutely minimum 1,000 hours at the time of your application. So when you go to hit submit in CASPA, you want to make sure you have 1,000 hours. If you have 999 hours, and then you hit that submit button, we will not look at your application until we have all of those hours in there. So you want to make sure that you have that 1,000 hours. We also recommend 20 hours of shadowing for a PA. It is not something that's required, but it does show us that you've gone above and beyond what our actual requirements are. We do like to see that students have had experiences, especially in the PA field, so they kind of know what they're getting into. I can't tell you, like I said, I've been here since September, and I've had a few phone calls where they've asked me all these awesome questions. And then the last one was, yeah, but I really don't know what a PA is. So we really want to make sure that you're understanding what it is you're getting into. Is this the field for you? Before you go and spend, all your time and your effort and your money into something that you don't want to do. All right, go ahead, you can click the next one. Awesome. All right, so the next requirement is our GRE. We have to have the scores within the past 5 years. So anything over 5 years old, we will ask you to retake. The breakdown, typically we like about a score of a 150 for the quant and 150 for the verbal. So if you're right around that 300 mark, that's what we're looking for. I mentioned our application opens right around the end of April. It's set by CASPA. Last year, like I said, it was April 30th, and it does close on September 1st, and it's September 1st every cycle. But one thing to note is that we are rolling admissions. And what this means is as soon as CASPA opens and students are submitting those applications, they've submitted their supplemental application as well. They've been verified through CASPA and we have access to them now. We are starting to review those applications. We are starting to put together our list of students who we want to bring in for their interviews. So it is imperative that you apply as soon as you possibly can. Just because we do get over 1,600 applications pretty much each cycle. Actually, it's gone up over the last couple of years. And it's very hard to get through all of them in a timely fashion. And with a rolling admissions means as we're doing the interviews, as we're selecting our candidates and they're accepting our seats, our class could potentially close even before September. It just depends on what the applicant pool looks like and how competitive those applicants are. So if you're ready and waiting and you just have to hit that submit button, try and do it as soon as you possibly can. If you delay it, you could potentially be missing out on an opportunity had you applied sooner. 3 letters of recommendation. We prefer at least 2 from a PA or a clinician, a nurse practitioner, someone who's witnessed your healthcare hours experience, someone who can kind of attest to your abilities. We don't ding you if you don't have recommendations from a PA, but we definitely like to see that. Again, we want to see that you've taken the initiative, you've had experiences in the PA field to make sure that's something that you actually want to do. Once we've gone through X number of applicants, we have our 32 candidates selected. We will bring them in for an interview. Right now, our interviews are virtual because of COVID, but you get to meet with some of our faculty, our directors, myself, Wes is usually there, and then you get to meet with some of the student ambassadors, and you get to do some of the activities that we have planned throughout the day apart from your interview as well. And then if you are accepted into our program, we do have a background check and a drug screening that you will complete once you're accepted as well. All right, so the required prereq courses, we have our general biology. If you've AP'd out of, your psych or your chemistry or your biology, we do look at, the next higher level course. So say you AP'd out of Bio 1, but you took Bio 2 in person on campus and you got a high grade, A or something like that, we would take the Bio 2 grade to help with your prereq GPA, because if you AP out of something, it's technically counting as a pass, so it doesn't help or hurt your GPA. But 1 semester of biology, and then we look for the 2 semester sequence of anatomy. So anatomy and physiology 1 and anatomy and physiology 2, which I know state offers those, but if for some reason you transferred into state and you took, say, a semester of full-on anatomy with lab, and then you took a semester of full-on physiology, we would accept that as well. But if you're taking the Bio 240 and 245 at state, those would be the ones that we would accept. Microbio with a lab, absolutely imperative that you have a lab. At state, that would be the MB 351 and 352. So those would be the 2 classes that you want to take. Your Gen Chem 1 with your laboratory. Again, if you AP'd out of it, we would take, your Gen Chem 2 if you have that as well. The next one is either organic chemistry or the biochemistry. With that one, we just look for the lecture. You're not required to take the lab. If it's required for your degree, absolutely we'll look at it, but we just look for the lecture. So either or, it doesn't hurt to do both if you want to. Maybe one you'll have a better grade versus the other one. So it's really up to you and your preference. Again, with what your degree requires to, you may have to take both. Statistics or your biostatistics, just 1 semester of that. Psychology, it could be general psychology, it could be abnormal psychology, it could be any, upper level psychology. Whichever grade is the highest is usually the one that we take. Again, if you AP'd out of it because you didn't want to take it for gen ed, but you took a higher level psychology, cognitive or something like that, you earned an A, we'll take that one as well. Genetics, we've thrown around the idea of requiring this, but right now it's just going to be a recommended course. State, it's the genetics 311 course. Again, the lab is not required. We just look for the lecture. But I know, I think within your first year, you do genetics. So it definitely would be a highly, highly recommended class to take. Now you can apply during that CASPA cycle with some of these prereqs not met. I do not recommend it because you're not viewed as competitive. But if you say have, 1 lab that you couldn't get into, or just a lecture that you didn't get into and you're in progress with it while you're doing your application, you must have that prereq completed by December 31st of that year. Once you have that completed, you would just update CASPA, or you could email me with your updated transcripts, just so that way I have a note in the system that you have completed that grade, because we do factor in all of your prereq GPAs and your prereq grades, because we calculate the prereq GPA within CASPA ourselves. Oh, and one thing, sorry, I wanted to mention, I just saw in there, was the biology and the chemistry. Make sure they are for your science majors. Sometimes we have students who are not in a STEM major. Maybe they started in psychology, took their life science class and switched out. Make sure that that intro bio, intro chem class was for your science major. If it was, you know, a non-science, you know, kind of biodiversity class, it's not going to count. So you want to make sure that those are for your science majors. Awesome. Do you want me to keep talking about this, or do you want to talk? You can go.
I'm pressing the mute button. No, I think this is okay. I think this is just kind of look at this list, get a general idea of what you're doing for your hands-on work. My rule is always, if you're physically putting your hands on a patient, you're good. Like, that's just kind of the general idea. And you see there's a long list, and there's stuff outside of this list that will qualify as well. So just be aware of that. And if you ever have any questions, you can email Brittany or I. We'll take a look and then say yay or nay. Okay, so where to start? We've given you a lot. It's probably a little daunting. First off, let me just say this, like, I know it's intimidating. I know it's tough. I had to tell some of the student ambassadors when they were first starting, like, hey, your first step is to just breathe and do what you're gonna do. And when it comes time to apply, hit submit. Like, it's intimidating, it's a lot, but you won't get in without hitting submit. So take a deep breath and just go for it. That's always kind of my first piece of advice. If you're a little earlier in the process, one great place to start is PAEA Online. That's a free directory on PA programs and frequently asked questions, prerequisites, all that stuff. For the GRE, start with a book or prep course. I was actually talking to one of you back when I first got on, and she was studying for the GRE right now, which is exciting, as much as I hate that test. A lot of mistakes that I see revolve around, oh, I'm just gonna, like, I'm good at taking tests, I'm good at standardized tests, I'll be fine. And then they bomb it because it's not like any test you've ever seen. Get a book, get a prep course, do the work. My kind of thing about it is always give yourself as much time in the GRE to prepare for that as you would an extra class. So try not to take the GRE during a semester where you've got just like a full class load as much as you can handle. And then use the code 0406. Last thing about the GRE, always take a practice test as well. That was second last thing. Last thing about the GRE, which is really relevant to right now, testing centers are the way to go. There is an at-home test available, but on average, those scores are much, much lower due to technical difficulties and everything else. Just go to a testing center. I hate those at-home tests. So just word of advice there, word of warning, really. Getting health care experience. I've already seen I've gotten a chance to glance at the chat momentarily, and I've seen kind of some recommendations going out on where to do some healthcare experience at. Don't take off more than you can chew when you're in school. It's always cheaper to go back, take gap years, get that experience than it is to go back and take classes. But definitely have that in your mind. Be thinking of what am I passionate about? What do I want to do within the healthcare field to get that experience, and just kind of go for it. You know, once again, it's one of those things where you just have to find it and go for it. Shadowing a PA, Brittany mentioned, very important. You can actually use AAPA's website to kind of find a directory there and find PAs that take shadows. And if you do have any prerequisites, the ones that Brittany mentioned that have a C or lower, retake those prerequisites. Just it's so competitive right now, not just for Campbell, but for any PA school. I mean, the profession's just been named the #1 profession in the world, according to Forbes. It's so competitive right now, just retake the Cs. That's pretty much it. I just let me go back real quick. I just want to reiterate, my part of my job is to go through, and as you're kind of being intimidated by all this, to help you step by step along the way. So if you feel like you need that, if you feel like you want someone to go back, take a look at your admissions packet, see what your next steps are, where to go from here, feel free to email me, feel free to reach out. We'll schedule time. We'll virtually sit down and get you to your next steps. And I'm also going to, while we're doing Q&A, repost the links to our mailing list in that YouTube video, because I didn't realize that if you join after I post them, they won't come through. So, so with that, I am going to turn it over to you. We're going to have a Q&A time. So feel free to just pose questions to our student ambassador. I think we're a small enough group that we can probably like just unmute, ask your questions, and kind of get back into it. So I do see a question come in the chat. I'll moderate it, but feel free to just unmute and ask whatever questions you have. The floor is yours.
I just want to say one thing, because we did have a question about the online labs, which I did forget to mention. So any online lab taken from spring of 2020 through summer of 2020, we will be accepting those labs right now if they were online. Anything prior to COVID, so prior to spring of 2020, if you had an online lab in just one of the prereq courses, if it was, you know, online lab for, you know, a course that we don't really look at, that's fine. But as long as it was a prereq lab prior to COVID, it would need to be in person. Spring 2020 through summer 2021, online labs are okay. And we are also accepting virtual shadowing hours right now, because we know it's been very hard to gain any type of experience with COVID. So if you're worried about not being able to obtain shadowing hours, number one, it's not required, but we do like to see it. And if you had the ability to do virtual shadowing, we will accept that as well.
I was kind of wondering how the classroom setting has changed like over COVID. Could y'all talk a little bit about that?
I can talk about it. So, class has been, most of the time we've been online. We have been in class about 1 to 2 times a week. So what they did was, we have 54 students, and so they cut us in half so that we would be able to be spaced out in the classroom. So half of the class would go in on, like, let's say Tuesday, and then the other half would go in on Wednesday. And then all throughout the day on Thursdays generally are our lab days. And so half of us would go in the morning, and then the other half would go in the afternoon. And they've implemented where they mix the groups up so that we slowly but surely get to meet all of our classmates. I mean, we pretty much know everyone because we have like 5,000 group messages, and we, you know, talk and ask each other questions. But while we are online, a good bit of it because of COVID, like whenever we do go in, it's great. And it feels like, you know, nothing's different except we're spaced out and we're all wearing masks. But when we are virtual, currently we switched to Zoom, which I really like. I feel like Blackboard tended to like cut in and out more, but their chat boxes, and we'll like ask questions. It really doesn't feel that different. You're just in pajama pants instead of like fancy pants. But yeah.
We've had a couple of questions come in the chat. One has been for me. What's something that stands out a lot on applications when determining who is admitted? Honestly, there's no direct like singular answer to this. It could be any number of things. Always include all your extracurricular activities, because you know that stuff's gonna land. Like, you know, volunteer experience, community service, all of it. Throw it all in there. Dance. I heard someone do dance marathon. Put dance marathon in there. You know, you may not think it's healthcare related, but we love seeing stuff like that. Writing a really good personal statement is a great way to kind of jump to the top of the list of like who we want to interview. So keep that in mind. come to one of our personal statement workshops. Interviewing really well, obviously going to be very important. That's going to kind of determine acceptability as well. And one of the biggest things is if we just know your name, like that goes such a long way. If we know your name out of, 1,600 applicants, if we can pick it out and say, I know them, they're from NC State, they came to so many events that we've done, then that's going to help you out so much. So that's definitely one too. So definitely try to come to events, try to stand out, try to get us to know your name. Next question I'm going to leave open for student ambassador. What tips would you give to pre-PA freshmen?
I know I'm not an advisor, but I can throw my advising hat on here and give some tidbits real quick. The one thing that I want to say, just from the advising standpoint that I've had, I was an advisor for 6 years and I've advised all ages with pre-health majors in biology. And the one thing that was hard for me to watch was somebody who was so intense and so set on going to pre-professional school that they just jam-packed their entire 4 years with so much work between work and school, extracurriculars, that they kind of took on too much and they kind of crashed and burned by the time they hit their senior year. So don't feel pressured to try and get everything done in the 4 years. We do have a lot of students in our class that do take a gap year because it's hard to get the healthcare hours in those undergrad years, especially with COVID, with the limited availability and things like that. So don't be hard on yourself if it comes down to you wanting to take a gap year, you needing to take a gap year. Sometimes it does you more, it just works better for you in that situation. So I would say it looks like you have a lot to do right now, which is true, but just pace yourself. Don't overwhelm yourself. You'll have the time to get there. So if you can, take your 12 to 15 credits, do really well, hit your extracurriculars. If you need to go into post-bac work or, just take a year off to get your EMT certification, your paramedic certification, your CNA, get those hours, then do it. It's probably going to be better off in that sense than trying to cram everything in, because you want to be a well-rounded applicant. You want to be successful. You don't want to put yourself through all of this, get to the end, and it's not where you hoped it would be or not where you thought it would be. So, school's always going to be there. So just take your time and do what you need to do and do it well. So that way, when it comes time to apply, you are a standout candidate for sure. Because trust me, I remember my very first day, my freshman year, and I've graduated now 13 years ago or something. So it goes by very, very fast. So just enjoy the ride. If you have any questions, we've said numerous times, just reach out to us. You can say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this semester. Is that going to look good? Am I taking too much on? Just ask us any questions that you have. That's what we're here for. And it can be down the line too. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm going to combine a couple of questions that came in the chat, because these are both frequently asked questions for our student ambassadors. So student ambassadors, how many schools did you apply to and what made you choose Campbell? So y'all just want to go down the line, popcorn off.
I'll talk. I originally applied to 11 schools, which I think is a little bit on the high end. But I was just, you're worried that you're not going to get in, so you applied as many as you can. I would say that if you are interested in staying in North Carolina, just apply to North Carolina schools. I applied to a lot of out-of-state programs, and it's actually a lot harder to get into out-of-state programs. They typically only accept a few out-of-state students. But that being said, we also have a lot of out-of-state students at Campbell, which is great. But just apply to schools that you really want to go to. Don't cast your net huge. I would say, as for why I picked Campbell, the second I stepped on campus for the interview, I was like, wow, I really want to go here. You just get this feeling when you walk in that they want you to be there and that it's they want you to do well. It's just the environment. So that's why I picked Campbell.
Hey guys. Yeah, totally agree with everything Madeline said. I think I applied to like 7 or 8 schools. And the reason I liked Campbell the best, obviously, like totally agree with what Madeline said. Like you step on campus, you feel very welcomed. It's like just feels very like warm and inviting, I guess, for lack of like a better term. But the other thing for me was just like definitely like look over the mission statements of different programs you're applying to, because, and I think I said this at my interview, like I had Campbell's like PA mission statement like saved up on my tab for like so long because it just resonated perfectly with what like I wanted out of a program, like their thoughts on like holistic medicine of like mind, body, spirit. I double majored in bio and psych, so I always like thought that was something that was really important to me and like how I want to practice medicine. So I could definitely tell like from their mission statement and just from like how things went on interview day that that was important to them too. So I think definitely just like finding a program that aligns with like what you want to get out of your education as PA.
So I've seen a few more questions coming in the chat, and I just want to clarify. For the AP credit, we will accept AP credit if there's kind of nothing else, particularly anything graded there. Just make sure that it's on your transcript too. NC State's been really good about that the past couple of years, but when I first started, there was always a little bit of trouble with NC State getting that on the transcript for whatever reason. We also had a question about the writing component of the GRE. And we mostly care about the verbal and the quantitative. We're not like, we can let that go a little bit. So yeah. And I'm getting the kind of wrap it up from Caitlin. So Caitlin, I will turn it back over to you. I think that we must have talked about everything as well because we don't get as many questions as we usually do.
Thank you guys all so much. I have emailed, like at the beginning of the year, I emailed a bunch of different people from different schools trying to get everyone to come, but I can't believe how many of you showed up. I think there were like 10 representatives from Campbell. So a big thank you for all of your time. We really appreciate it. Just before we go, I wanted to talk about just a couple things. Our next meeting will be March 2nd. It is a nursing meeting with ECU. And then after that meeting is one that Jada and I planned, and then another Campbell grad. That's the one where we're going to try to have pre-PA students, current Campbell PA students, and then practicing PAs all join together on a Zoom call, so hopefully we can interact and make some connections. But that's all. Thank you guys all so much for coming. We really appreciate it, and I hope you have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and thank you guys again for all coming out here. It like means a lot. I know that everyone always loves to have a bunch of different voices coming in and like talking about their experience and their tips. So it's always like a big hit with the students, and just like thank you. I know you guys are always so busy in PA school, like so that you guys took time to come speak to us tonight means a lot.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. I just popped my email in the chat. I see a couple others popping their emails in the chat. If anyone has any last questions as y'all filter out, feel free to make note of those emails so that you can just email us any questions that you might have. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna head out, guys, but that was a great meeting. Hope you guys have a great week.
Yeah, that's good. You too.
Bye.
Bye, you too.
Here, have a good night, you guys.
Good job.
That was so good.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I was waiting for that girl to get off. I was like, what are you doing? That was so funny.
I thought it was too.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was a great meeting.
That was like so good.
Yeah, I wanted to do that like normally for PA meetings. What Jada always did was like get schools like that to come and speak, and that's what I had wanted for this year. But no one replied except Campbell. So,
Really?
Yeah, and I emailed them at the beginning of the year, so I don't know. My guess is it was because like it was when COVID was happening.
But I mean, you would think that like they would have to drive out to us versus getting on your computer, you know?
Exactly. So I don't know, but I'm at least glad Campbell got to come, so people could experience like what a
Yeah.
regular meeting is normally like, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was talking to Wes before, and he was like, "We don't have a PA here tonight," like, and he was disappointed about that. But I was like, "No, we've had the PAs come and talk. Like, we don't need that. We need the schools and hearing from admissions." And he was like, "Well, that's good to hear," because I feel like we've had a lot of like, you know about the PA profession by now if you're in this club.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think this was a great meeting.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm surprised more people didn't come. I think like 20 people from our club came. Because there was like 33 in the meeting and like 10 were from Campbell.
We only had like 20 last time though. It was kind of weird. It was like 25 or something.
Huh. Yeah, I remember that meeting I did with like my mom's group. 100 people came, remember?
Yeah, it was crazy. I did look at the YouTube video because I had to post something for one of my classes. It got 25 views, so I mean, maybe people
Oh.
did afterwards.
Yeah.
So that was good at least, but
There's always a handful of people who on the Instagram are like, "Are you gonna post it?" And I'm always like, "Yes, we'll send it tomorrow."
yeah, it takes like a day to upload. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
still recording this. My bad.